Now on Brookland News Live, the breaking news from the Capitol Hill to the White House. The Senate right now voting on the SAVE Act and measures to fund the Department of Homeland Security as lines grow at airports across the nation. All as the White House now reacting with the war in Iran, what President Donald Trump said about the gift Iran gave the U.S. Something he said days ago. Now he's telling us what that gift was. And Nicolas Maduro in court this morning, what that hearing was about. We've got that and more coming up on this edition of Brookland News Live.
It's time for all the news you need and more. Brookland News Live starts right now.
And that is for sure. There is a lot of news we are going to get to, so stick with us in this hour. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It's Thursday, March 26, 2:01 here in Brooklyn, 12:01 on the West Coast, and 3:01 on the East. We start first with the latest on the war in Iran. President Trump taking quite some time this morning during the cabinet meeting that we were actually on the air with, and responding to claims that Iranian state TV has continued to make that he is not negotiating with them. This comes after state TV said the government rejected the 15-point ceasefire proposal that the U.S. gave Iran, and they would later give their own proposal. Here is President Trump on all of this morning.
We set the record straight because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But they say, oh, we're not talking to them. Anybody would know that. And only a total fool. And they're not fools. They're very smart, actually, in a certain way. And they're great negotiators. I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators. They are begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. Or they should have done it when we first came into office, because 2 years ago they had free reign under Biden. Sleepy Joe, worst president in the history of our country.
Well, there you go. President Trump saying they're begging to negotiate, essentially saying that they want and they say that it is a need to end this war. President Trump also today during that cabinet meeting clarifying what the gift that Iran gave the U.S. was. If you remember, President Trump said there was a gift. We brought that to you yesterday, and I believe it was the day before that he actually would say it. And now he's coming out and saying what that gift was, which is kind of exactly what we had talked about right here on Brookland News Live, but also what analysts had said, that it was a sign that he was talking to the right people, that the U.S. was negotiating with the right people. I'm not going to say what the gift was. I'll let the president say it here.
I told you about a present, right? Steve, can I reveal the present?
You can do anything you want.
Thank you. They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil. 8 boats. 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it. And then I watched the news, and they said, a very good anchor, actually, happened to be Fox, but I watched it, and he said, something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait.
So there you go, President Trump saying it was 8 boats. It was boats going through the Strait of Hormuz to prove that he was talking to the right people. Now, this comes as Steve Witkoff talked a little bit about the 15-point plan. Steve Witkoff, he serves as the United States Special Envoy to the Middle East, spoke on the 15-point plan and confirmed that it was delivered through Pakistan. I'm going to play a clip of this just because this is him confirming earlier reporting that there was a 15-point plan. He did not specify what was in that plan, but he did talk about it just a little bit. This is Steve Witkoff.
Action list that forms the framework for a peace deal. This has been circulated through the Pakistani government, acting as the mediator. And this has resulted in strong and positive messaging in talks, as you just indicated to the press. But these are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and you have directed us to maintain confidentiality on the specific terms and not negotiate through the news media as others do. I can say this: we will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if a deal happens, it will be great for the country of Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large.
Steve Witkoff there this morning on all of this and what it all means as you sit there and you can now see Beirut, Lebanon there as you take a look on your screen. Excuse me, there, the headline. You can see what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so there we go. Now, that is all from the White House this morning. So major developments coming out from the White House this morning. We are also learning, and when we can talk about developments on the ground, we're learning more there because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the killing of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy head Commodore Ali Reza Tangsiri. In an Israeli strike, he was killed. Other senior naval commanders were also killed. Netanyahu claimed Tangsiri was responsible for the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and highlighted Israel-U.S. cooperation. Iran has, at this point in time, not confirmed Tangsiri's death. We are also learning this is coming in really right before we came on the air. According to the Secretary General of the Gulf Cooperation Council, Iran is charging fees for ships to transit safely through the Strait of Hormuz. That is according to Jassim Mohammed al-Budawi. This is the first accusation of its kind. This is from a top official, so it is notable here. He made this statement during a news conference in Saudi Arabia. So that's a part of this story we're going to keep our eyes peeled to, and we will monitor. Now to a story, we're getting an update that I brought you yesterday. So yesterday we learned, or it would be like Tuesday night, we learned that 1,000 plus paratroopers are headed to the region. President Trump late last night said he was going to be avoiding calling this a war. And it looks as if we are having some difficulties with that video, so please stick with me here. I believe we do have the video, but I think... Or we did have the video. Okay, we're going to move on to the next headline here. We will get that video to you here in just a moment. But Trump yesterday, last night, during a speech he gave late last night, he said he was going to avoid calling this a war to essentially avoid congressional approval. So, what requires congressional approval, you might be asking, because that is the same question that I had to ask. So I want to read this off to you. This is just a general question, general research that I was given today as I was looking kind of this is obviously a war. So why do you have to get congressional approval to approve the 1,000 paratroopers that are now going to be headed to the Middle East? The president is the commander-in-chief under the Constitution. This gives direct control over military... under the War Powers Resolution, the president can send troops into action without Congress first, but must notify Congress within 48 hours. Troops cannot remain in combat long-term without Congress. The law sets a limit of about 60 days with a possible 30-day withdrawal period. Presidents often deploy units similar to this one, like the 82nd Airborne Division, for rapid response, evacuations, deterrence, and short military operations. And I believe yesterday it was a question, that was asked in the White House press briefing. Why the 82nd Airborne Division when you say this war is close to an end? And I believe they just kind of said that there was still more to do, and that's why. So there you go. Again, I just wanted to bring that to you because I know I was asking the same question yesterday when I had learned about all this. Does he need congressional approval? Because this is something that this administration has often attempted to do, and that is avoid congressional approval, and that has oftentimes led Democrats to kind of say, you're on the wrong here. I want to take you now to to our daily gas price update. That's where we're going. Right now, I want to give that to you where things stand right this moment on fuel prices. And as I'm looking right now, it looks as if things have gone down just a little bit, but not by much. The national average, $3.98. Let me look at what yesterday's was. Yesterday's was $3.98.3. It's $3.98.1. So that is just regular fuel, and then we got up to, of course, premium and diesel. Diesel right now, $5.37. I couldn't imagine being an 18-wheel driver, those people that like them big old trucks, so they have to fill up their engine with diesel. So $3.98 yesterday's average, and then $3.98 is what we're looking at here. Talking specifically about Arkansas, we're looking at about $3.39. That comes down just a little bit from yesterday. So what is that? Three percentage points from yesterday, and I'll scroll down here so you can see that I'm kind of circling here. 3 percentage points from yesterday. So percentage points, excuse me, 3 points from yesterday. So talking about Crockett County here, 340, looking at that average, going a little above the state average of 339, but not by much. Specifically, talking about Jonesboro, you're looking at about 343 is going to be that average across the city, and I will check when I drive into town today what things are, and I'll probably bring it to you tomorrow. So, of course, an aspect of this story that we are continuing to follow. Okay, I want to take you now to our next story. You saw a little bit of it earlier because I accidentally teased the headline a little bit earlier than maybe I should have, and that takes us right now. Give me one moment here. Takes us right now live to the Senate floor. As Senate Dems moments ago, before we came on the air, voting down Department of Homeland Security funding. Of course, as lines continue to grow, not only that, TSA agents now going without a paycheck. So lines growing across the nation. TSA agents either calling out, many quitting. Tomorrow, another payday, and they will not be seeing that. During the shutdown, nearly $0 in it. This is their third paycheck during this shutdown with no money in it. Trump weighing in on all of this morning.
Now on day 41 of the disgraceful Democrat shutdown of Mark Wayne's department. Congratulations. They came into a department that shut down by the radical Democrats. Right? But Democrats are really punishing the American people. I saw it today on one of the shows where they were interviewing people at the airport, and they're all angry at the Democrats. They're saying they're actually angry at Schumer. I didn't think anyone knew his name. One woman said, that Schumer is disgraceful. He's a disgrace to our country. But they're angry at the Democrats. They know what's happening. But they're punishing the American people, including travelers at airports, all in the quest to return to open borders and give amnesty to illegal alien criminals. They want to give amnesty to some of the criminals that came into our country, just about all of them, actually, if you look at it. They love sanctuary cities, which is a sanctuary for criminals. They want to make sure they're taken care of. That's what we're fighting about. That's really what they're fighting. They don't talk about that, but that's what they're fighting about. They want to protect criminals. In many cases, 11,888 murders. Many of them, I will say, are gone now because of us. We got them out. But still have some left. Should have never happened. Should have never been allowed to come into our country. But we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let the Democrats get away with this stuff. And people are wise to them. So they need to end the shutdown immediately, or we'll have to take some very drastic measures.
So there's President Trump on this all, saying we'll have to take some drastic measures. The Washington Journal, literally seconds ago, now out with this new report, saying they do say it's a WSJ exclusive, so Washington Journal exclusive, but Republicans push White House to declare national emergency to pay TSA agents. That's coming in moments ago. Arkansas Representative Rick Crawford, who represents Brookland, was on Fox Business the other day and said this about what TSA agents were telling him. Take a look.
At TSA in my airport in Memphis, I fly in and out of every week, and one of the TSA agents there just quietly, discreetly thanked me for doing everything that you can and appreciate you very much. Thanks for what you do. So I think the workforce is really aware of what's taking place here, and the irony of this is the Democrats have hung their hat for decades on being the champions of the workforce, and here they are leaving the workforce in the lurch.
Rick Crawford there, the Republican who represents Brookland in the House of Representatives. Now we have new reporting like this out. TSA chief warns staffing problems could close smaller airports. This headline even saying it could threaten the World Cup. Here's the TSA chief on all of this on a Capitol Hill hearing that occurred yesterday.
Fiscal year, TSA has been shut down for 50% of the time, or 85 days. And if still shut down this Friday, we will have reached nearly $1 billion in missed paychecks. This level of disruption is unprecedented and unacceptable and significantly undermines the security of U.S. transportation systems. 95%, or more than 61,000 of TSA's employees must continue working without pay during a shutdown. Many in our workforce have missed bill payments, received eviction notices, had their cars repossessed and utilities shut off, lost their child care, defaulted on loans, damaged their credit line, and drained their retirement savings. Some are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet, all while being expected to perform at the highest level when in uniform to protect the traveling public. A transportation security officer at Reagan National Airport recently said, "I just want Congress to pay me for the job I am doing." We have already lost over 480 TSOs this shutdown, and our call-out rates have accelerated as our workforce was still reeling from the last shutdown.
So it is the truth that TSA agents are facing all too often now, as the TSA chief there pointed out that they are seeing half of this fiscal year no pay, almost $1 billion. So could this lead to some airports being closed? We don't quite know if it's going to reach that extent, but Democrats and Republicans, we've been reporting on this day by day, but they've yet to find some common ground to reopen the DHS. Now, they closed it for ICE funding, but ICE is funded until 2027. Now, we're learning, according to a local news report in Atlanta, Tyler Perry, Medea, trying to give money to agents at a local airport there. I want you to take a look at this video. This is a local news report from there. Here we go.
Morning of significantly long lines to start the day, but also another day of people wanting to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And we now know, Cheryl, that Tyler Perry, you may have heard of him. Well, he was here this morning. We now can confirm that he was attempting to pass out a substantial amount of money to TSA agents to help them cover, daycare, the bills that they have to pay. And right now we know they are not getting a paycheck. But unfortunately, because of federal rules and regulations, he was not able to do so because they're not allowed to accept gifts while they're here on the job. But it just shows that people care and they're trying to do what they can to help out our TSA agents here in Atlanta. We're giving you a live look now here at the lines this morning, much different from earlier, but we do want to go ahead and mention that in the last 15 minutes, we have noticed that up there, way up there near security, we are seeing ICE agents that have been here since Monday. Well, we saw them scanning IDs of passengers coming through, so maybe that is possibly a reason why these lines are moving a little fast.
Okay, I wanted to play that in part. That's why I remember now that I left that in there. I wanted to play that in part of that report because that local news reporter is pointing out that ICE is now checking IDs, which we originally, a few days ago, played an interview from CNN with the border czar, Tom Homan, who said that it takes 4 months to do the training, to do like the for real security stuff, but what they can do is keep everybody in order. And now you're seeing that they're helping people scan their IDs to move through TSA, and that reporter even goes on to say that maybe that's why the line is moving a little bit faster. So this is a story we will bring you updates on, similar to how we're doing the war day by day. If there is any developments here, stick with us. We'll try to bring you guys that. We've got more news coming up right after this quick break. You're watching Brooklyn News Live. We're back in a moment. Welcome back to the show. This morning, Arkansas Democrats announcing that Vice President Kamala Harris will be the keynote speaker at the Fisher Shackle Ford 2026 award dinner. She will deliver again the keynote address. This comes as CNN now coming out with reporting saying that she will be doing a number of events across the South. The dinner will be held on April 25th at the Little Rock Convention Center. This will be her first keynote address after her 2024 election loss, marking a major moment for Arkansas Democrats. Vice Chair Jane Cotton called it a, quote, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Harris, the woman vice president, has made history with her role and work on various issues, and something the Democrats right here in Arkansas have taken pride in. So again, she will be the keynote speaker coming up on April 25th in Little Rock at the official Shackle Ford dinner there. Also, early voting has begun in the primary runoff elections right here in Arkansas. That includes the race for Secretary of State, with Craighead County voting from March 24th to March 30th. The runoff, it's necessary because essentially a runoff election is held when you don't get over 50%, right? At least that's how the rules work in Arkansas. When you don't get over 50% and another candidate doesn't as well, then you have to go to a runoff election. And that's what we're seeing now for Secretary of State, the Republican runoff between State Senator Kim Hammer and Brian Norris. Only voters who participated in the same party's primary or did not vote are eligible to vote in this runoff. Now, steady turnout is expected from officials right here there in Jonesboro, and then on election day, you'll be able to vote in Brookland. When I pull up this report, we're also getting in. This is coming in from the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Both Arkansas Secretary of State candidates and GOP runoff facing ethics investigation. As you go down, it says, according to letters signed by Jill Rogers Barham, the interim director of the Arkansas Ethics Commission, complaints made against both Kim Hammer and Brian Norris, the two candidates vying for the Republican nomination for Secretary of State, have met the basic threshold for a further investigation. Now, it says, while Barham doesn't mention the candidates by name, the people who filed the original complaints with the Ethics Commission told the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette her letters came as a direct response to accusations they made against Hammer and Norris. Hammer, a state senator from Benton, is being investigated for an accusation that a campaign commercial he filmed at the state capitol violated a state law barring public servants from using their office in campaign material. So we'll have to see what that says. It also goes on to say, Norris, a project manager and U.S. Army veteran from Batesville, is being investigated for a trio of accusations, according to a March 6th letter from Barham. The first claims Norris's campaign failed to include a, quote, paid for by disclaimer for a campaign advertisement that appeared at the Faulkner County Republican Committee Freedom Fest. Another accusation against Morris contends his campaign failed to disclose baked goods his campaign sold as nominatory contributions. Norris said his campaign purchased the baked goods from his daughter, excuse me, to have available at speaking engagements. He contends he properly listed the expenditures on his report. The third accusation contends Norris didn't properly report travel expenses on his financial disclosure reports, as he listed direct payments to fuel and electricity vendors rather than reporting miles. So that is some new reporting we're getting in from the the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and it will for sure be something that we are going to continue to follow. Another quick break, more news to come. You're watching Brookland News Live. And welcome back. Some breaking news. We are continuing to monitor. This morning, you're taking a look at a look from the courthouse in New York, in Manhattan. Captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro appearing there. Judge Hellerstein rejected the defense's bid to dismiss the case due to U.S. sanctions that are, according to the defense here, preventing Venezuela's government from paying Maduro and his wife's legal fees. The couple argue sanctions in infringe on their right to a lawyer of their choice. The prosecution claims using Venezuelan government funds does not violate their rights, and national security concerns outweigh their right to counsel. Judge Hellerstein believes the right to defense is paramount and requires private counsel. Now, Maduro's defense may argue here head of state immunity, so it's going to be something to watch for, but the U.S. stopped recognizing him as a president all the way back in 2019. Now, the hearing was delayed at first because of the judge's late arrival. Maduro's attorney did argue, though, for the rights to use Venezuelan funds for defense, claiming no allegation of tainted funds. Judge Hellerstein, who's a 92-year-old judge, has overseen high-profile cases, including multiple lawsuits from, the September 11th attacks and a dispute over U.S. troop abuses in Iraq. So, a judge who kind of knows what he's doing when it comes to these exact cases, but rejecting a defense bid to go in full dismiss this case because he can't get Venezuela to pay for his legal fees and a lawyer. So the story we're going to continue to follow. I want to take you to some new video as well. We are getting in. Take a look here. This is showing you wreckage from Air Canada and that fire truck collision this morning, being pulled and removed from the tarmac using a number of different tools to get it out of the way, but it's been sitting there now for what? It'd be about since Sunday, and today's Thursday, so they're now removing that. This comes as today marks the third full day for the NTSB to continue their investigation on all of this. You'll see the airplane landing, and then in the bottom half, you'll begin to see that wreckage all being removed. So it was blocking an entire runway, forcing a runway to be closed. Of course, lines growing already at airports because TSA agents are not being paid. So can't imagine the pain that maybe this was inflicting for those air traffic controllers, which we know they have also seen in recent really years some understaffing. So there you go. There goes the Air Canada Express aircraft, and then you'll also begin to see them move this fire truck out of the way. So hopefully runway 4, which is where this was placed, can be reopened soon and maybe reduce some of the strain on really just that entire airport at LaGuardia. Of course, that crash killed 2 pilots and injured many others. We played for you yesterday, and I'd recommend you to go back to yesterday's edition of Brookland News Live, and we played for you a number of interviews coming from survivors of this plane crash. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we do have some good news you might want to, or not necessarily, it's on a bad news, but good news that we're hearing a new perspective in all of this. Savannah Guthrie, of course, the Today Show co-host whose mother went missing over 50 days ago, now speaking out in her first pre-taped interview. We're going to play a piece of that interview for you. We've got more on that, plus your forecasts coming up for you here in just a moment. Welcome back into Brooklyn News Live. Still with you here in Jackson Mitchell. Time is now 2:36. Okay, so we had a few issues with the clip we were going to play for you earlier. Now we've got the clip. President Trump refusing to call this a war. Maybe why he's recently been using the language excursion and military operation. All because he doesn't want to get congressional approval, if necessary, to put troops on the ground. Take a look at this video.
I want to deflect from all of the tremendous success that we're having in this military operation. I won't use the word war because they say if you use the word war, that's maybe not a good thing to do. They don't like the word war because you're supposed to get approval. So I'll use the word military operation, which is really what it is. It's called a military decimation. But they don't like the good publicity. They don't like to see us succeed. They want to see our country fail. And also, what they really want is they want illegal immigrants to come in. Criminals doesn't matter because they want to get their votes. They think they're going to get their votes, and we're not going to let this happen.
So President Trump there saying that he's not going to call this a war, whether a military excursion or a military operation, an aspect of this war in Iran, one of the dozens that we are following. Savannah Guthrie speaking out in her first taped interview that aired on NBC's Today this morning. We showed you a preview clip that they also played yesterday. Now we've got kind of highlights of this, and I will warn you, it's a little bit sad.
I mean, my siblings are so amazing. My brother, you know, he spent his career in the military and worked in intelligence and is a fighter pilot and is brilliant. And he saw very clearly right away what this was. Yeah. And even on the phone, when I called him, he knew. He knew. And he said, I think she's been kidnapped for ransom. And I said, yeah. What? Yeah. Well, why? What? And then, I mean, it sounds so like how dumb could I be? But I didn't want to believe. I just said, do you think because of me? And he said, I'm sorry, sweetie, but yeah, maybe.
Just tell me about her.
My mom she's incredible. She's resolute and strong. Quiet strength, quiet faith, but hard fought. She's funny and a little mischievous, I would say, in her humor. She's a noble creature. She does what's right. She walks in faith, but not a fake, pious, put on faith, but like a grounded, earthy, she fought for it, faith.
When you posted Please Pray in the beginning, the ocean of love and prayers, did you feel that? Did you sense what was happening?
I do feel prayers, you know, I do. I believe that. I think she would have been just amazed.
Stayed together in Arizona for weeks as the media coverage grew more intense.
We had to move houses many times because people came and not everyone is respectful, unfortunately. You know? And there was a night we had to leave in the dark in the desert, holding hands, me and my sister and brother and I, get into a car waiting for us because the people outside were closing in. So we found a place that was safe, and then we couldn't really leave too much. So like those days are a blur.
Savannah Guthrie there making the plea. If you have information about her mother, Nancy Guthrie, who you see there in that photo, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, that number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. That's the number again if you have any information on the continued search for Nancy Guthrie that's now been over 50 days. Here is Savannah Guthrie. Also, this was going to be about 2 days ago on the Today Show making a plea.
One of the moments from the interview where Savannah shared a message to anybody, information about Nancy.
Someone do the right thing. We are in agony. Unbearable. And to think of what she went through. Wake up every night of the night. Every and in the darkness, I imagine her. And it is.
It is hard to watch. You hear her there at the end when we cut it off, kinda. She says it is unthinkable, but she wakes up in the middle of every night, and that is what she thinks about, the unthinkable. And you heard her in that first clip we played. She weighed this kind of, was it because of my job? Was it because of my role as, a national anchor for NBC? And her brother, who she mentioned his service to the military and his work there, said it could be. So so much to follow. We have provided, I think, an update almost since this has kept going. I know at first it was daily, now we're going to weekly here, so and hopefully that doesn't change. Hopefully new information comes about at some time soon. We've got more to come right here on Brooklyn News Live, right after this quick break. Alrighty, welcome back here live into Brooklyn News Live. Time now is 2:46. Trump now weighing into the criticisms after he casted his vote by mail. Despite many previous concerns he expressed, not only that, but criticism for those that cast their ballot by mail. This is President Trump this morning at the White House.
Let's go. You mean I used a mail-in ballot? You probably said, yeah, I did. Why did you know what? Because I'm president of the United States, and because of the fact that I'm president of the United States, I did a mail-in ballot for elections that took place in Florida, because I felt I should be here instead of being in the beautiful sunshine taking.
But you were in Palm Beach, sir, the last few weekends.
That's right, and I decided that I was going to vote by mail-in ballot because I couldn't be there, because I had a lot of different things. But you know, we have exceptions for mail-in ballots. You do know that, right? So if you're away, we have an exception. If you're in the military, we have an exception. If you're on a business trip, we have an exception. If you're disabled, we have an exception. And if you're ill, if you're not feeling good, whatever. So I was away, mostly in Washington, D.C., so I used a mail-in ballot. But I appreciate the question, because I know it was so well-meaning.
President Trump this morning weighing in on all of it. So he received a lot of controversy for it after the fact. We told you about this story as well yesterday, so we wanted to bring you that update there, saying that there is exceptions. So, okay. Here's what we're going to do here. We are going to take you right here. Here's a look right now outside in Brookland. A live look there at that RDOT camera. There we go. That RDOT camera is now just about 250 here. Your forecast looks pretty okay, though tomorrow rain in the late afternoon to evening is what has been forecasted. So that's going to be something to watch for here. Let's take you to that forecast. Tonight, we're looking at about a low 62 by Friday. As I was just saying, those showers could be here. And then high of 65, low of 40 by Saturday, high of 60, low of 43. So the question is going to be about those showers on Friday. Doesn't look at this point like it's going to be anything majorly severe, but it is going to be something to watch for. And again, the late afternoon into the evening when those showers are expected. That is your forecast, your 3-day forecast. Another quick break. When we come back, OpenAI ending Sora AI. All them AI videos that you saw, likely made by Sora. Well, now OpenAI shutting it down to focus on some new things. We'll tell you what they're focusing on now and exactly why when we come back. Alrighty, welcome back here live in the Brookland News Live. Time now 2:51. OpenAI is ending its operations. They say its AI video generation app Sora now going to be bye-bye after less than 2 years after the launch, and canceled its $1 billion content partnership with Disney. So the company now says OpenAI, who's also the creator of ChatGPT, says it's now going to be focusing its operations on robotics and advanced AI development. Now Disney, no beef there, at least from the outside. They say they respect the decision and will seek other AI partners. Sora generated only $1.4 million in revenue compared to ChatGPT's $1.9 billion, and struggled with non-consensual imagery, misinformation, and some copyright issues. Analysts say the move reduces the risk ahead of a potential stock launch. Okay, so that is big stories of the day right now. We're also getting this new big story coming into us from actually the local news. So NEA report out with this story saying federal lawsuit alleges false warrants with child abuse language used to target critics of Truman. The story goes on to say the city of Truman is facing a federal lawsuit that accuses several of its top officials of orchestrating a scheme to obtain search warrants under false pretenses to identify and silence critics of city leadership. However, Truman officials say they have done nothing wrong. So a big news there. We're actually going to have a full complete story on that. We'll have a kind of a summary of what's going on there in Truman on that story. Just a preview of what's coming up tomorrow. We're going to end the show here. We want to thank you all for watching. It's always nice when we can end a few minutes early. That means we've gotten to all the stories that we needed to get to. Okay, that is for us. Thanks all of you for watching. Now, remember, you can watch us, here we go, weekdays at 2 p.m. So make sure to join us then. That does it for this Thursday, March 26th edition of Brookland News Live. Have a great rest of your day. We're back at 2 tomorrow.